Danny Martinez walked into the lecture hall at exactly 8 in the morning. He carried his data pad and a cup of coffee. Today was just another day of teaching at the Galactic Military Academy. Or so he thought. The announcement came through the speakers just as Danny reached his desk. Today is Galactic Family Appreciation Day. All staff members can bring their children to work. Danny barely heard it. These special days happened all the time at the academy. The alien species brought their young ones in special containers or with safety equipment. It was normal. Danny did not think much about it. He looked up at his students. 43 cadets from 17 different species sat in their seats. But something was wrong. Very wrong. Every single student was frozen. Their eyes were locked on something behind Danny. The Vrelnii cadet in the front row had turned completely gray. Danny knew this meant the alien was terrified. A Corthan student in the back made a high whistling sound that hurt Danny's ears. Danny turned around slowly. His sister Katie stood there with a big smile on her face. She held a small child on her hip. Another child stood next to her, holding Katie's hand. "Hey, Danny," Katie said in a cheerful voice. "I hope you don't mind us dropping by." The kids wanted to see where Uncle Danny works. The small child on Katie's hip was 3-year-old Sophie. She had blonde hair and chubby cheeks. She smiled at Danny and showed all her tiny teeth. The other child was 5-year-old Emma. She had dark, curly hair and brown eyes like Danny. She waved at her uncle with excitement. Behind them, a Vrelnii cadet fell out of her chair and hit the floor. Danny's brain took a moment to understand what was happening. To him, his nieces were just cute little girls. Sophie loved to play with dolls. Emma liked to draw pictures and read books. They were harmless. But to the aliens in the room, the girls were something else entirely. They were predators. Baby predators. But predators all the same. "Katie," Danny said carefully. He watched another cadet slowly slide under a desk to hide. "Maybe this is not a good time. Don't be silly," Katie said. She had no idea what was going on. "You said family was always welcome. The girls made something for you." Emma walked forward. She held out a piece of paper with a crayon drawing on it. The drawing showed stick figures. Danny thought one was supposed to be him. The others were probably aliens, though they looked more like colorful blobs. Sophie noticed all the strange creatures in the room. Her eyes went wide with wonder. She let out a happy squeal. The sound was loud and high. 3 cadets jumped up and ran for the exits. "Birdie!" Sophie shouted. She pointed at a Zephyrii cadet. The alien had colorful feathers and looked similar to a bird from Earth. "Big Birdie!" The Zephyrii made a sound like they were choking. Their feathers went flat against their body. Danny held up his hands. He tried to look calm. "Everyone, please stay calm. These are just children. Human children. They will not hurt anyone. Predator babies." A Corthon cadet named Thrix whispered. His voice shook with fear. 2 of them. They are old enough to hunt. They are 3 and 5 years old, Danny said. He could not believe he was having this conversation. They eat chicken nuggets and watch cartoons. The most dangerous thing they do is leave toys on the floor. Emma heard the word dangerous and got confused. She tugged on her mother's hand. "Mommy, why is everyone scared? Are we playing a game?" "I don't think so, sweetie," Katie said. She was finally starting to understand. She looked at her brother with wide eyes. "Danny, do they think the girls are dangerous?" "It's complicated," Danny said quietly. Sophie got bored with being held. She wiggled and squirmed until Katie had to put her down. As soon as Sophie's feet touched the floor, she toddled toward the nearest desk. She walked with the unsteady steps of a small child who had just learned to walk well. The Vrelnii cadet at that desk made a sound like air escaping from a balloon. The alien moved so fast, it seemed to teleport to the other side of the room. Sophie did not notice. She had found something interesting on the desk. A datapad showed colorful holographic star charts. The lights were pretty. Pretty lights, Sophie said. She reached for the pad with her small hands. Her fingers were sticky from breakfast. Danny moved fast. He picked up Sophie before she could touch the expensive equipment. Sophie did not like this. She wanted to play with the pretty lights. No, Sophie yelled. Danny had been teaching Sophie about dinosaurs the last time he visited Earth. Sophie loved dinosaurs. She had been practicing her dinosaur roar for weeks. To her, it was just a fun game. To Danny and Katie, it sounded cute. To the alien cadets, it sounded like a death threat. The sound that came out of Sophie's mouth was high and loud. It was not scary to human ears. But the aliens heard something different. They heard a young predator making a kill cry. The room went crazy. Cadets ran for the doors. They climbed over desks and over each other. One Zephyri flew straight up to the ceiling and grabbed onto the light fixtures. A Corthen's translator started yelling about danger protocols and juvenile predator alerts. Emma got scared by all the sudden movement and noise. She started to cry. Her crying mixed with Sophie's roaring. This made everything worse. Katie looked at Danny with panic in her eyes. What do we do? Danny stood in the middle of the lecture hall. One roaring toddler struggled in his arms. One crying kindergartner held onto his leg. The room was emptying fast. As aliens fled in terror, he finally understood something important. Humans saw themselves as just another species in the galaxy. But the rest of the galaxy saw humans very differently. To them, humans were apex predators, the most dangerous hunters in known space. And if adult humans were dangerous, then human children must be baby killers in training. Danny looked down at Sophie, who had stopped roaring and was now sucking her thumb. He looked at Emma, who was crying into his leg because the loud noises had scared her. These were not killers. These were just little kids who wanted to spend time with their uncle. I think, Danny said slowly, I need to file an incident report. A very detailed incident report. Katie nodded. She picked up Emma and held her close. I'm so sorry, Danny. I had no idea. It's not your fault, Danny said. He rubbed Sophie's back until she calmed down. The galaxy just doesn't understand human children yet. The lecture hall was almost empty now. Only a few brave cadets remained, pressed against the far walls. They watched the humans with wide eyes, full of fear and confusion. Danny sighed. This was going to be a very long day. He needed to explain to the Academy why his nieces were not a threat. He needed to help the aliens understand that human children were not dangerous. But first, he needed to calm down two scared little girls who had no idea why everyone had run away from them. Come on, Danny said to Katie. Let's get the girls some juice boxes and cookies. Then, we can figure out what to do next. Katie followed him out of the lecture hall. Emma had stopped crying but still held tight to her mother. Sophie was quiet now, tired from all the excitement. Behind them, the remaining cadets slowly came out from their hiding spots. They looked at each other with confusion and relief. The predator cubs were gone. They were safe, for now. Danny walked down the hallway with his sister and nieces. He knew this was just the beginning. The whole academy would hear about what happened. There would be meetings and reports, and probably a lot of explanations. But maybe, just maybe, this could be turned into something good. Maybe he could teach the galaxy about human children. Show them that kids were not monsters or weapons. They were just kids. Sophie yawned and rested her head on Danny's shoulder. Emma held Katie's hand and asked if they could come back tomorrow to see the funny aliens again. Danny smiled despite everything. Yes, this was definitely going to be interesting. Commander Urix stood behind her desk. Her skin changed colors rapidly. It went from gray to purple to red. Danny knew this meant she was very upset. He had never seen her this angry before. Urix was Vrelnii, which meant she looked like a large squid standing upright. She had many tentacles and skin that changed color to show her feelings. Right now, her feelings were not good. "Explain to me," Yurik said slowly. Each word came out sharp and clear. "How did two young humans get into this academy without clearance? Without containment? Without any warning?" Danny stood at attention in front of her desk. He kept his face calm even though the situation was strange. "Ma'am, it was Galactic Family Appreciation Day. The announcement said staff could bring their children to work. Children, yes, not predator cubs. With respect, ma'am, they are the same thing. Human children are our offspring. My sister did not need special clearance because the announcement applied to all species." Yurik's skin flashed bright red. The announcement was for civilized species. The Vrelnii bring their spawn in secure containers. The Korthans keep their young in stasis fields. Even the Zephyri make sure their babies are sedated and restrained. Humans don't sedate their children, ma'am. "Maybe you should start," Yurik said under her breath. She pressed a button on her desk. A holographic screen appeared in the air. The screen showed the security footage from the lecture hall. Danny watched as Sophie made her roaring sound. The timestamp showed it was recorded at exactly 8:47 in the morning. "The smaller child makes what our system calls an aggressive threat display," Yurik said. She pointed at the screen with one tentacle. This triggered a station-wide alert. Security teams from 3 sectors responded. They thought we were under attack. Danny watched the footage of Sophie's dinosaur roar. "That's not a threat, ma'am. She was upset because I took away a data pad. It's called a tantrum." "A tantrum." Yurik's translator somehow made the word sound ridiculous. "You're telling me that sound was just because she was unhappy?" "Yes, ma'am. 3-year-olds do that when they don't get what they want. It's normal behavior for human children." "Normal." Yurik's touched another button. More numbers appeared on the screen. "Lieutenant Commander, 27 cadets needed counseling after this incident. 15 more requested transfers to different instructors. Cadet Thrix is in the medical bay right now. He's molting his entire shell 3 months early because of stress." Danny felt bad about that. He would need to apologize to Thrix. Maybe send him some chocolate if Korthans could eat it. "I understand this got out of hand, ma'am, but my sister and her children didn't break any rules. There were no signs saying human children weren't allowed, because we never thought we needed those signs." Yurik sat down in her chair. Her skin finally settled into a tired purple color. "Lieutenant Commander, I've read your file. You're a good teacher. Your combat classes are some of the best in the academy. Your students are afraid of you, but they still give you high ratings. Thank you, ma'am. But this incident shows us something. The Galactic Council's information about human children is wrong. Very wrong." She pulled up another file on the screen. This one showed a simple chart. It labeled human children as small adults with less strength. Danny laughed before he could stop himself. "That's completely wrong, clearly. So I'm giving you a new assignment. You will create a complete briefing about human children, how they develop, how they behave, how to interact with them safely. This briefing will be required for all staff and students." "Understood, ma'am. When do you need it?" "Yesterday would be nice," Yurik said. Her skin changed to a color that might have been humor. "But I'll accept it by the end of the week." Dismissed. Danny saluted and started to leave. But Yurik called him back when he reached the door. "Lieutenant Commander, one more thing." "Yes, ma'am?" "The security footage shows something interesting. After the panic started, you picked up the small child. The older one came to you for comfort. Within 30 seconds, both children stopped crying and calmed down." Yurik's skin shifted to a soft blue color. Danny's translator said this meant curiosity. "How did you do that?" "We couldn't find any chemical tranquilizers or neural dampeners in the recording." Danny thought about that moment in the lecture hall. Sophie in his arms and Emma hugging his leg. He had rubbed their backs and talked softly to them. That was all it took. It's called comfort, ma'am. They know I'm family. They trust me. When children are scared or upset, they just need someone they trust to tell them everything will be okay. Yurix was quiet for a long time. Interesting. Does this trust-based calming work with adult humans too? Sometimes. Though adults usually need more than a hug. I see. Yurix made a note on her datapad. Include that in your briefing. If human children can be calmed through trust instead of restraints, this changes how we understand your species. Danny nodded and left the office. His mind was already working on the briefing. How do you explain human childhood to aliens who think kids are dangerous weapons? His communicator buzzed. A message from Katie appeared on the screen. The girls want to visit Uncle Danny again. Sophie keeps roaring at the ship's computer. Emma drew pictures of all the aliens. Please advise. Also, sorry for causing an incident. Danny smiled and typed back. Give me a week to fix things, then we'll try again, and bring cookies next time. He walked down the corridor toward his quarters. Other staff members moved out of his way quickly. Word had already spread about the incident. Now everyone knew that Lieutenant Commander Martinez's family included small predator cubs. Danny needed to change that view. He needed to show the galaxy that human children were not monsters. They were just kids, being kids. The next few days were busy. Danny watched hours of videos showing human children at different ages. Babies learning to walk, toddlers having tantrums, young kids playing games, teenagers being difficult. He collected data on child development, growth charts, behavioral patterns, learning stages. He compared human children to the young of other species. What he found was interesting. Human children were actually very weak compared to other species young. A baby Korthon could lift heavy objects within days of hatching. Vrelnii's spawn could survive underwater for hours. Zephyrii fledglings could fly within weeks. Human babies couldn't even hold their own heads up for months. They couldn't walk for a year or more. They needed constant care and protection for years. But human children had something else. They were extremely social. They learned by watching others. They formed bonds easily, even with strangers. They were curious about everything. This was humanity's real strength. Not physical power, but social intelligence. Danny put all of this into his briefing. He added videos and charts. He wrote explanations in simple language that the translators could handle easily. But he knew the briefing wouldn't be enough. The aliens needed to see real human children behaving normally. They needed to understand that Sophie's roar was just play, not a threat. He called Katie. I need your help with something. Can you bring the girls back to the academy in 3 days? Are you sure that's a good idea? Katie asked. She sounded worried. We kind of caused a panic last time. I know, but that's exactly why we need to do this. The academy is creating a training program about human children. Who better to help than actual human children? Katie was quiet for a moment. Then she laughed. The girls would love that. They keep talking about all the funny aliens they met. When should we come? Friday at 1000 hours. And Katie? Bring lots of snacks. I have a feeling we're going to need them. Snacks for bribery purposes? Exactly. Danny spent the next 2 days preparing. He reserved the large conference room. He sent out mandatory attendance notices to all faculty and cadets. He made sure security knew what was happening, so they wouldn't panic again. Commander Yurix approved everything. She even offered to attend the briefing herself. On Friday morning, Danny stood in front of the conference room and took a deep breath. Inside were dozens of aliens, all nervous about meeting human children again. Katie and the girls were waiting in the side room. Emma was excited. Sophie was eating a snack and didn't really understand what was happening. This was it. The moment where Danny would either help the galaxy understand humanity better or make everything worse. He opened the door and walked in. Time to teach the galaxy about human children. The conference room was packed. Danny had expected maybe 20 or 30 beings to show up for his briefing. Instead, every seat was full. At least 30 more beings stood along the walls. Some even sat on the floor. Faculty members were there. Administrative staff had come. The entire xenobiology program seemed to have attended. Even Admiral Kothos, the commander of the whole training facility, sat in the front row. Commander Irik sat next to the admiral. Her skin was a calm green color, which meant she was curious to see what would happen. Danny walked to the front of the room. He activated the holographic display. A picture appeared showing Emma and Sophie at the beach last summer. They were building a sandcastle, covered in sand and smiling at the camera. A HFY cadet in the third row made a small, scared sound. "Thank you all for coming," Danny said. "Today we're going to talk about human children. I want to explain why they are not the dangerous predators you think they are." He moved to the next image. This one showed a comparison chart. Human babies are born completely helpless. Unlike many of your species, our young cannot walk or feed themselves. They cannot even hold up their own heads for months. A newborn human is one of the weakest creatures in the galaxy. A VrELNI cadet named Ven raised one tentacle. But humans are apex predators. How can your babies be weak? Because we trade early strength for bigger brains, Danny explained. Human babies are born early compared to other species. We need years of care from parents to survive. A human child doesn't reach full maturity until around 18 Earth years. Surprised sounds came from the audience. Admiral Kothos spoke up. His translator crackled a bit. 18 years? That's a quarter of my species' entire adult life. Why would evolution make children depend on parents for so long? Because it allows for complex learning and social bonding. Human children learn by watching others. They learn by playing. They learn by asking questions. What Sophie was doing in my lecture hall last week was not threatening anyone. She was curious. She was exploring. When I stopped her, she got frustrated and made noise. That's normal for a 3-year-old. Danny showed more images. Children playing with toys, kids reading books, a group running in a park. One picture showed a child throwing a massive tantrum in a store. "Let me explain the different stages of human development," Danny said. He spent the next hour walking through infancy, toddlerhood, early childhood, and teenage years. He explained why toddlers roared like Sophie had. It was not a threat. It was experimentation with sounds. It was expressing big feelings without having the words to say what they felt. He showed videos of children playing tag. He explained that chase games were not hunting practice. They were social bonding activities. They were ways for children to make friends and learn cooperation. The audience watched everything closely. Danny could not tell if they were interested or still scared. But at least they were paying attention. "Now," Danny said, "let's talk about one of the most important parts of raising human children. We use positive reinforcement and redirection." He pulled up a new video. This one showed Emma and Sophie in his quarters yesterday. Katie was watching them. Emma was teaching Sophie how to count using colored blocks. She patiently corrected Sophie when she skipped numbers. Sophie got frustrated and threw a block across the room. But Emma did not yell at her. She picked up the block, handed it back to Sophie, and said, "Let's try again. You can do it." Sophie tried again. This time she counted correctly. Emma clapped her hands and said, "Good job, Sophie. You're so smart." The joy on Sophie's face was clear. Even the aliens could see it. Sophie beamed with pride and wanted to count again immediately. "This," Danny said, "is how humans teach our children. Not through fear or punishment, through encouragement and patience. And yes, sometimes through bribery with treats." A few of the human staff members in the back laughed at that. Which brings me to the practical part of this briefing. Danny signaled toward the door. "I've arranged a demonstration. My sister and her children have agreed to help show you how to interact with human children safely." The door opened. Katie walked in with Emma and Sophie. This time the girls were prepared. Emma wore her favorite shirt with a dinosaur on it. She carried a small backpack full of toys. Sophie held her stuffed rabbit and sucked her thumb, looking sleepy. The reaction was immediate. Cadets tensed up. Several reached for weapons that were not there. Ven's skin went completely clear, which meant total panic for Avrelnii. "Everyone stay calm," Danny said firmly. He walked over to his nieces and knelt down to their level. "Hey, Emma. Hey, Sophie. Thank you for helping Uncle Danny today. Are you ready to meet some new friends?" Emma nodded seriously. "We practiced being gentle. Mommy said we have to use quiet voices, because some of the aliens get scared." "That's right. Can you show everyone how gentle you can be?" Emma walked toward the nearest desk. Cadet Thrix sat there, frozen with fear. Emma stopped a good distance away and waved. "Hi. My name is Emma. I'm 5 years old. What's your name?" Thrix's translator made a crackling sound. "I am Cadet Thrix. That's a cool name. Are you like a bug? You look like the beetles we have on Earth, but way bigger and with pretty colors." "I am Corthan. We are an insect-like species." "Insect," Emma repeated carefully. "Can I draw you?" "I like drawing." Before Thrix could answer, Emma had pulled out paper and crayons from her backpack. She sat down on the floor and started drawing. Her tongue stuck out a little bit as she concentrated. Meanwhile, Sophie had noticed something interesting. The Zephyrii cadet had beautiful, colorful feathers. Sophie toddled over, still holding her rabbit, and pointed. "Pretty birdie." The Zephyrii, whose name was Zix, looked down at the small human with clear terror. Sophie tilted her head, confused about why Zix seemed scared. Danny stepped in smoothly. "Sophie, remember what we talked about? We ask before we touch. Can you ask nicely?" Sophie nodded. "Can I see feathers? Please?" Zix looked at Danny. Danny gave an encouraging nod. Slowly, very slowly, Zix extended one wing. Zix lowered it so Sophie could reach. Sophie touched one feather very gently with her small hand. "Soft," she whispered with wonder in her voice. Danny pulled out a bag from behind the podium. "And now, here is the secret weapon that every adult human uses when dealing with children. Snacks." He opened the bag. Inside were cookies, crackers, and juice boxes. "Emma, Sophie, would you like a snack?" Quote, 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 quote. Both girls immediately forgot about everything else. They ran over to Danny. He gave Emma a cookie and Sophie a juice box. Just like that, the two predator cubs were completely busy with their treats. "This," Danny announced to the shocked audience, "is how you handle human children. Redirect their energy. Give them positive attention. And when nothing else works, offer food. It works every single time." Admiral Kothos stood up. His shell made clicking sounds as he moved. He walked over to where Sophie sat, drinking her juice and kicking her feet. "May I try something?" Danny handed him a cookie. "Offer it to her and say something friendly." The Admiral was a decorated military commander. He had led battles across 3 sectors of space, but now he knelt down with a cookie in his large claw. "Small human, I am Admiral Kothos. Would you accept this food offering?" Sophie looked at the cookie. Then she looked at the giant, bug-like alien holding it. For a moment, Danny worried she might cry. But then, Sophie smiled big. She took the cookie and said, "Thank you, bug friend." She took a bite of the cookie. Then, she held it up to the Admiral's mouth. "Want some?" Kothos looked confused. He looked at Danny for help. Danny smiled. "She's sharing. It's a sign of friendship. You should accept, even if you can't eat it. Just pretend to take a small bite." The Admiral, with all his military dignity, pretended to nibble the cookie. Sophie giggled and clapped her hands. She was delighted. "Remarkable," Kothos said quietly. She shows bonding behavior even with a species she just met. Humans are social creatures, Danny explained. Our children want to make friends with everyone. It's one of our greatest strengths. Over the next hour, cadets and staff slowly approached Emma and Sophie. Emma showed off her drawings. She explained in great detail about her favorite dinosaurs. She told everyone why Triceratops was better than Stegosaurus. Even though some people disagreed, Sophie shared her stuffed rabbit. She let several cadets touch its soft fur. She collected a group of admirers who were fascinated by her baby talk and her toddler way of walking. By the end of the demonstration, Cadet Ven was helping Emma with her drawings. Ven showed Emma how Vrelni used their skin lights to create art. Zix had taught Sophie a simple HFY greeting song. Sophie sang it very badly but with great enthusiasm. Even Thrix had relaxed. He let Emma look closely at his shell for her sketches. Danny watched with satisfaction. The galaxy's most feared predator species was winning hearts by just being cute children. Commander Yurix walked over to Danny. Lieutenant Commander, I believe I was wrong about your species. I underestimated both you and your children. Addis. 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 No apology needed, ma'am. This was a learning experience for everyone. Indeed. She watched Sophie hug Zix's leg, while Zix gently patted the child's head with a wing. I'm adding a new class to the curriculum. Human Development and Interaction Protocols. You'll be teaching it. Danny smiled. I'd be honored, ma'am. As people left the room, Emma tugged on Danny's uniform. Uncle Danny? Can we come back next week? Cadet Ven said she would show me how to make light patterns. We'll see, kiddo. The galaxy was learning. One cookie at a time. Word about Danny's briefing spread fast through the Galactic Military Academy. Within 3 days, other stations and ships started asking for similar presentations. Apparently, the whole galaxy was curious about human children now. But Danny did not expect what happened next. Emma and Sophie changed how the Academy worked in ways nobody predicted. It started small. Cadet Ven began eating lunch with human students. She asked them questions about Earth and human culture. Zix requested a transfer to Danny's Advanced Tactics course. Within a week, half the cadets who had run away from Sophie's roar were now volunteering to help supervise human family visits. The real change came during the Academy's annual interspecies cooperation exercise. This exercise was a tradition. Mixed species teams competed in challenges designed to test their ability to work together. This year's scenario involved rescuing civilians from a damaged station while dealing with limited resources and communication problems. Danny was one of the evaluators. He watched from the command center as teams worked through the simulation. He was reviewing performance scores when Commander Yurix approached him. Lieutenant Commander, we have a situation. Team 7 has encountered a problem in their scenario. Danny pulled up Team 7's video feed. The team had 3 Vrelni, 2 Korthons, 1 Zephyri, and 1 human cadet, named Pete Collins. They had been doing well until the simulation added something unexpected. The civilians they needed to rescue included children from various species. The alien cadets had frozen. They did not know how to handle young civilians without causing panic. Their hesitation was costing them time in the scenario. They need guidance, Yurix said. But our protocols for child rescue are limited. The human protocols, especially, need work. Danny had an idea. What if we made this a real teaching opportunity? Let me bring in actual children. As consultants, not for the simulation itself, but to help the team understand how to interact with young beings when they're stressed. Yurix's skin changed colors several times. Finally, it settled on curious green. Unusual. But given recent events, maybe unusual is what we need. Approved. 20 minutes later, Danny stood in a briefing room with Emma and Sophie. Katie had been happy to let her daughters help, especially after Danny explained it was for training. Team 7 walked in. They looked tired from their simulation. Pete Collins smiled when he saw Danny and the girls. But the alien cadets still looked nervous. Team 7, Danny began. Your simulation has been paused. You're facing a scenario that requires skills most of you don't have. Child rescue and care. These young humans have agreed to help you learn. Emma stepped forward eagerly. Hi everyone. Uncle Danny says you need to learn how to help scared kids. I can show you what works when I'm scared. Cadet Thrix, who had become something of an expert on human children after his stressful molting experience, spoke up. What do you need when you're frightened, young Emma? Emma thought about it carefully. I need someone to tell me everything will be okay. And maybe hold my hand. And definitely not yell. Because yelling makes everything worse. Interesting, said Ven. She was taking notes on her datapad. So verbal reassurance and physical contact. But gentle, physical contact. Yes. And sometimes, I need to tell someone what's wrong. Like when I fell off the swing and hurt my knee. I needed to tell Mommy that it hurt, and I was scared. She didn't just fix my knee. She listened first. Sophie, not wanting Emma to do all the talking, added her own wisdom. And treats. Treats make everything better. That made Pete laugh. She's not wrong. I've seen scared kids calm down for a juice box when nothing else worked. Danny guided the team through various scenarios. What do you do if a child is crying? How do you move quickly while keeping a frightened child calm? What if the child is too scared to move? Emma and Sophie acted out different reactions. They showed fear, injury, confusion, and even stubbornness. The cadets practiced their responses. They learned to control their voices. They adjusted their body language. They learned to prioritize emotional comfort along with physical safety. Remember, Danny instructed, children across most species respond to confidence and calm. If you panic, they'll panic worse. But if you stay steady and show them you're in control, they'll trust you. Cadet Zix practiced picking up Sophie. Sophie giggled as the Zephyrii carefully supported her with their wings. This is like flying. Do it again. The child enjoys aerial movement. Zix noted with surprise. I expected fear. Kids love new experiences when they feel safe, Pete explained. Context matters. A sudden grab would scare her, but when you asked first and moved slowly, she trusted you. They trained for 2 hours before Danny sent Team 7 back to their simulation. This time, armed with their new knowledge, they moved through the child rescue scenario with impressive skill. The Vrelnii used their skin lights to create calming shows for frightened children. Thrix's solid shell became a moving shield, protecting kids, while his gentle voice kept them calm. Zix's wings created a comforting enclosed space, like a moving tent. Pete coordinated everything. He used his human understanding of childhood fear to guide his teammates' efforts. Team 7 finished with the second highest score in Academy history, but the real victory came during the review afterward. Admiral Kotho stood before all the teams and evaluators. His mandibles clicked thoughtfully. This exercise has shown us something important. We train warriors to fight and survive, but we don't train them well enough to protect the most vulnerable. The galactic military exists to serve all citizens, including children. He gestured to Emma and Sophie, who sat in the front row eating cookies and swinging their legs. These human children have taught us more about true protection in one afternoon than some of us learned in years of service. Starting immediately, child interaction and rescue protocols will become mandatory training for all cadets. The announcement got mixed reactions. Some cadets looked excited, others looked nervous. But Danny noticed something important. None of them looked terrified anymore. The galaxy's warriors were learning that strength included gentleness. After the briefing, as cadets left, Ven approached Danny with a question. Lieutenant Commander, I've been researching human family concepts. There's something I don't understand. What's that? Human children aren't related by blood to all the adults who care for them. But you use family words. Emma calls you Uncle. But you're her mother's brother, not her parent. Why does your species extend family bonds beyond biological connection? Danny watched Emma teach Thrix a human hand-clapping game. Both of them laughed when they messed up the rhythm. Sophie sat in Zix's lap, using colored markers to draw on the Zephyri's flight feathers. Zix held perfectly still to help her. Because humans learned long ago that it takes a village to raise a child. We survive by forming bonds beyond biology. Those kids aren't my offspring, but I would protect them with my life. That's what family means to us. It's not just blood, it's choice. Ven's skin shimmered with an emotion Danny's translator identified as understanding. We Vrelnii have a saying. The spawn cluster survives through collective care. Perhaps our species are not so different. Maybe not, Danny agreed. Maybe that's something we can teach the whole galaxy. That taking care of each other, especially the young, isn't weakness. It's the strongest thing we can do. Emma appeared at his side. She tugged his sleeve. Uncle Danny, Cadet Thrix wants to know if we can come back tomorrow. He says he wants to learn more human games. Can we? Danny looked at Commander Urix, who had been watching everything. She gave a small nod. Her skin was a warm shade of approving purple. Yeah, kiddo. I think we can do that. Sophie came running over with Zix following behind. Uncle Danny, look. I drew on Zix's feathers. They said it's okay. Zix's feathers now had colorful crayon marks all over them. But the Zephyri didn't seem upset. In fact, Zix looked proud. That's beautiful, Sophie, Danny said. As the day ended, Danny reflected on everything that had changed. A few weeks ago, the sight of human children had caused panic. Now, those same children were teaching the galaxy's finest warriors about compassion and care. The galaxy was learning, and human children were the best teachers. 6 months had passed since the incident that nearly caused an intergalactic crisis. The Galactic Military Academy held its graduation ceremony today. Danny stood in his dress uniform, watching the graduating class receive their commissions. He was amazed at how much had changed. The ceremony itself was different this year. In the past, it had been serious and strictly military. But this year, families were invited. Not just adult families either. Children of various species sat throughout the amphitheater. A Corthan larva in a special suit sat quietly with its parent. Vrelni spawn clusters glowed with pride in the upper seats. Zephyri babies, too young to fly well, sat on special perches, and in the front row, Emma and Sophie sat with Katie. They watched the ceremony with wide eyes. Both girls wore their best dresses. Both had promised to use quiet voices for the whole ceremony. So far, they had kept that promise for almost 10 minutes. Admiral Kothos walked to the podium. His shell was polished until it shined. Today, we commission a new generation of officers into the galactic military. These graduates have completed the most difficult training program in known space. They are warriors, strategists, and leaders. He paused. His mandibles clicked in what Danny had learned was a Corthan smile. But this class is special. They are the first to complete our revised curriculum. This includes comprehensive training in interspecies cooperation, civilian protection, and child interaction protocols. The Admiral gestured to display screens showing various training scenarios. They have learned that true strength includes gentleness, that protecting the vulnerable is as important as defeating enemies. And they learned this from an unlikely source: humanity's smallest citizens. The screens showed footage of Emma teaching Cadet Ven how to comfort a crying child. Sophie demonstrating to cadets that the best way to redirect an upset toddler was through distraction and treats. Pete Collins, leading a mixed-species team through a family disaster scenario with confidence and compassion. These graduates, Kothos continued, represent a new standard. We call it the Galactic Standard, a standard that recognizes the galaxy's future belongs not just to warriors, but to protectors, not just to the strong, but to the compassionate. The ceremony continued with the formal commissioning. Danny watched with pride as Pete Collins received his assignment to the diplomatic corps. They specifically requested him for his ability to bridge cultural gaps. Ven accepted a position in the Xenobiology Research Division. She planned to study child development across species. Thrix, who had overcome his fear to become an expert on human behavior, received a medal for excellence in interspecies relations. When Zix's name was called, Sophie could not contain herself. "That's our friend," she whispered loudly. In a large amphitheater, her whisper carried far. Several species had sensitive hearing, so half the room heard her. But instead of panic or annoyance, the audience responded with what could only be called affection. Several beings turned to smile at Sophie. She waved enthusiastically at anyone who made eye contact. After the ceremony, the amphitheater became a reception area. Graduates mixed with faculty, family, and officials. Danny found himself surrounded by new officers asking questions about Earth, human culture, and especially human children. "Lieutenant Commander Martinez," said Pete, now Ensign Collins. He shook Danny's hand firmly. "I wanted to thank you. When I first came here, I felt like representing humanity was this huge weight. Like I had to prove we weren't monsters. But you showed me something better." "What's that?" "That we don't have to prove we're not monsters. We just show them who we really are. People who care about our families, who laugh with our kids, who use cookies as bribes because sometimes that works." Pete grinned. "You taught me that humanity's strength isn't in hiding our nature. It's in embracing it." Before Danny could respond, Emma appeared with Ven. Both were eating cake. Both had frosting on their faces. "Uncle Danny," Ven says, "there's a whole research team studying human kids now. That's because of us, right?" Emma's pride was clear. "That's right, kiddo. You and Sophie are famous." Sophie, hearing her name, ran over with Zix following. The Zephyrii had graduated with honors and wore new rank insignia proudly. But Zix still made time for their small human friend. "Ensign Zix," Danny said formally. Then he grinned. "Congratulations." "Thank you, Lieutenant Commander. And thank you for introducing me to Sophie. I've requested assignment to the Civilian Protection Division. Because of what I learned here, I believe I can make a real difference protecting families across the galaxy." Katie joined them, wiping frosting off Sophie's face, while the toddler squirmed. "So, what's next for the Martinez family? More surprise visits to lecture halls?" "Actually," said Commander Urix, appearing with Admiral Kothos, "we wanted to discuss that." Danny straightened to attention. Urix waved him at ease. "Lieutenant Commander, the Galactic Council has noticed the work being done here. They want to implement similar programs across all military and diplomatic installations. They're calling it the Human Juvenile Integration Initiative." "That's a long name," Katie observed. "Indeed," agreed Admiral Kothos. "We're working on something catchier. The point is, Lieutenant Commander, they want you to head the program. It would mean a promotion to Commander, a larger team, and significant travel throughout the galaxy, establishing these protocols." Danny blinked. This was huge. "That's a big responsibility, sir. You've already proven you can handle it. The question is, will you accept?" Before Danny could answer, Emma tugged his sleeve. "Does that mean you'd teach more aliens about kids? Because that would be really cool. Sophie and I could help. We're professionals now." Sophie nodded seriously, despite having cake frosting in her hair. Danny looked at his sister. Katie smiled and nodded encouragingly. He looked at the graduates around them, now confident in interacting with species they once feared. He looked at Emma and Sophie, who had somehow become ambassadors for human childhood without even trying. "I accept," Danny said. "On one condition." "Name it," said Wyrix. "Emma and Sophie get official consultant positions, with appropriate payment in cookies and juice boxes. If we're going to teach the galaxy about human kids, we should have actual human kids involved." Kothos's mandibles clicked with amusement. "Agreed. Though I suspect they'll be the most expensive consultants in the program, given their payment requirements." "Worth every cookie," Ven said. Several nearby graduates agreed. As the reception continued, Danny watched the scene with deep satisfaction. Cadets of many species played simple human hand games with Emma. They learned through play, the same way human children did. Sophie demonstrated the proper way to share snacks, teaching cooperation that worked across species. Officers and civilians mixed freely. Children were present and welcome, not hidden away. The galaxy was changing, one cookie at a time. Later that evening, after Emma and Sophie had been taken back to their ship by an exhausted Katie, Danny sat in his quarters. He was writing his first report as the newly promoted commander of the Human Juvenile Integration Initiative. He paused and pulled up the security footage from that first day 6 months ago. Sophie's roar, Emma's tears, cadets fleeing in terror. It seemed almost funny now. But it had been a turning point. Sometimes, Danny reflected, the most important lessons came from the most unexpected teachers. The galaxy had learned about humanity not through military displays or technology, but through two small girls who just wanted to explore, play, and share their cookies. That was humanity's real strength. Not our ability to fight, though we could when necessary. Not our technology, but our capacity for connection, for caring, for bringing others into our circle and calling them family. Emma had been right that first day. They weren't playing a game. They were building bridges, one interaction at a time. Danny saved his report and pulled up a message from Admiral Kothos. It was short. First assignment. Sector 7. Diplomatic Station. They're hosting first contact with a new species next month. Council wants human child consultants present to demonstrate humanity's social nature. Bring the girls. And Commander, bring extra cookies. Danny smiled and began planning. Emma and Sophie were going to love this. The galaxy was learning that humanity's most powerful members came in the smallest packages, armed with the most effective weapons of all: curiosity, kindness, and an unlimited capacity for making friends. And maybe, just maybe, that would make the galaxy a better place for everyone. The future looked bright. The future looked kind. And the future tasted like cookies and juice boxes. Danny closed his report and looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, new species waited to meet humanity. They would probably expect fierce warriors, apex predators, dangerous hunters. Instead, they would meet Emma and Sophie, and they would learn what humanity was really about: family, trust, and the understanding that the strongest thing anyone can do is care for those who need protection. The galaxy was ready for this lesson, and humanity's smallest teachers were ready to show them the way.